I'm Catherine Tomlinson, and I started an eco-conscious pottery company called Oxford Clay. So I don't just make pottery, I make resources for other potters wanting to be more eco-friendly in their pottery practice. And that's what this podcast is all about. It's about sharing everything I've learned along my eco-conscious pottery journey with you. And I'm so glad you're here with me. Let's go. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Oxford Clay Pottery Podcast. I'm Catherine Tomlinson and I'm really excited to be here with you. Thank you so much for joining me. So in today's episode, I'm really, really looking forward to talking to you about this because it's one of those episodes where I sort of spend some time collecting ideas together, and then later on I think, I could really do with some advice on that. So it's good for me just to be able to listen back or read my notes, and then I can kind of remind myself, when I need a reminder, basically. So today's episode is on 5 tips for how to have original creative ideas in pottery. So these tips are not limited to pottery, but they can be just kind of creative in general. But there's some tips which I've just had a think, and I've sort of collected some things, like I said, together. And I'm really looking forward to sharing with you. These are my 5 top tips that have definitely helped me in pottery have more original creative ideas, and and sort of just stop myself from blocking my own creative flow, because it can either be that you're potentially feeling blocked creatively for some reason, or it could be just you feel like there's no ideas coming through to you for some reason, or it could just be you feel like everything's kind of going wrong and everything you make is going wrong. And so it could be several sort of issues you're having in terms of original creative ideas, and producing work that you really love, that you're really proud of and stuff. Okay, so let's get into the episode and the 5 tips. I've written all these tips down, and I've reordered them, so it's now super confusing. So bear with me whilst I try and remember which one was actually number one. So number one. Okay, so okay, this is number one. So my first top tip, and I really back this tip, honestly, is follow your curiosity. So this is such a kind of important thing to say in pottery, because quite often in pottery you can think, oh, there's a right way of doing something and a wrong way of doing something. It's you might be in a community pottery setting, or an evening class or something, whether you must use these clays and glazes, you must put it on the right shelf, and obviously completely advocate for that, putting the right clay in the right firing earthenware or stoneware. You want to get that right so your clay doesn't melt. But there's this idea that maybe you can't do this, you can't layer certain glazes, or you can't paint this on that, or you can't have a certain shape, or you can't use this clay and make a certain shape, or you can't possibly throw that kind of shape on the wheel, or your pot has to be all lit like this, it can't be wiggly, or it can't be this and that. So I think it's really important just to say that there are, although there are general guidelines, following your curiosity is so incredible in pottery. Anything that I've done that I'm really proud of, it's because a kind of tiny seed idea is popped into my mind, and it's made me think, oh, I wonder if I do that, what would happen, sort of thing. Or I wonder if that would be a good idea to perhaps combine those things. Or I wonder if potters would be interested in the things I've learned about eco-conscious pottery, so I made the book on eco-conscious pottery tips. Or, I wonder if, perhaps I could test some glazes. I wonder if I could make my own metal oxide. That's something I've done. I wonder what would happen if I used, different plants and burned them into ash, and then sort of wonder if they would make different colors. I wonder how how they would look as a glaze. You know, they made a whole book on ash glazing just from that concept, that curiosity about like how different plants make different glazes. So yeah, when you have that like little seed of curiosity, I would really encourage you just to like follow it, and some amazing things can come out of it. Like sometimes you intuitively know something that maybe your brain hasn't quite caught up with your kind of intuition about it. And I think Einstein used to talk about this, the way ideas didn't necessarily come from like his mind; they came from almost like an intuition about the fact that like that idea was maybe worth pursuing, which is so fascinating. So like yeah, we could all like follow Einstein's example and just be like follow our kind of curious intuition, our creative intuition. And like my top tip for that is basically like sometimes I'll just be like, say like in the shop or something like that, like, walking down the road and an idea will pop into my mind, or like, something I'm curious about will pop into my mind. And I actually have a notebook where I like store all of these ideas. And some of the ideas, I don't end up like, doing because I'm just like, that no, that wouldn't work, or, not quite yet sort of thing. But it's just so useful to have a place to collect all these ideas, so I have just like this one notebook and I just collect all the ideas in that notebook, and I know that then they're all going to be like in the same place, because I've had it before where I say like I've written on a post-it and I've lost the post-it note or something. So it's really helpful just to have that like one place where you can just store all of your creative curiosities. Yeah, it's very inspiring. You can look back through it as well, because like I often find that I get more ideas at certain times than others. So sometimes it's like just really nice to like, when you've got more ideas flowing, you can just write them all down, and then you can maybe act on them another time when you kind of think, well, I've got less ideas but now I've got more time to act on them because less ideas are coming into my mind. So yeah, curiosity, follow your curiosity. That's number one tip, okay, for how to have original creative ideas in pottery. Okay, so the next tip is, okay, this is such a good tip. Okay, so the next tip is basically don't worry about making mistakes. So I think this can really block me personally. This is something that I really have to work on. Just removing the idea from my mind that, like I said, there's a right way of doing something and a wrong way of doing something, and that it's not okay to make mistakes, because mistakes are how you actually learn how to do things. So it's only by like pushing your practice to the limit, and say like maybe if you're making something on the wheel and you're just trying different shapes out or something, and you're just seeing like how far you can maybe push a bowl out before it collapses or something. It's only by that mistake, inverted commas, that the limits of your skills, the limits of like that clay that you're using, that's how you learn. That's how like that is the edge, basically your growth edge, and that is how you basically learn everything, because you need to know. You need to have that information about, say, like how not to do something, or what happens when you do something. You need to have that information to be able to like take it forward in the future, and that's basically how we learn. So I think it's quite easy to be like to let like, I guess like perfectionism is a good way of describing it, like stop you from having that like your creative flow, because what your brain can maybe perceive as a mistake. I don't want to make a mistake, especially if I have this maybe in a group setting. I used to have this thing where I sort of didn't want to maybe make a mistake in front of other people. So I, on the wheel and stuff, I might feel a bit like self-conscious, if I basically had a whole evening class, 3-hour long evening class, and like didn't make anything, that everything went wrong. I'd have those evenings where it just seemed like, I was a bit tired, or, I was trying different things out and nothing would work. And, I used to feel a bit like, not like, I wouldn't say like ashamed, but a little bit like self-conscious of the fact that like I hadn't like produced anything. But I would say that like that, those evenings when I basically didn't produce anything, I was gathering so much information about like how to do things for the next week. The next week I'd be like refreshed, and I'd have all that information kind of almost like, in my brain, and in like almost like muscle memory, say like for throwing on the wheel. And that's how then I would know what to do the following week. So it was only by, making those mistakes inverted commas, that I would then be able to have enough information to have, to be able to, like, the following week I'd maybe produce like lots of things because I had that information. So I think, like, on how far the clay could go, the edge of my skills, basically I was growing all the time. So I think I would say, like, don't let necessarily, like, your brain telling you not to make mistakes stop you from, having original creative ideas. It's something that can happen. And like I said, it's something I really have to work on, like, the whole time. This whole thing where it's like, it's got to be perfect straight away. It's kind of impossible, a physical impossibility. So, you'd also never really produce anything, new or exciting or different, or, you never grow your skills at all if you had to be completely perfect all the time, because that's just not how you learn. Okay, so that's the second one. Don't worry about making mistakes. Okay, so the third one is, okay, like I said, I've mixed all these up, so it's like super confusing as to what number 3 is. Okay. So the third one is, so this is a tip, which is actually somebody else's tip. It's from Simone Grace Seal, who runs the Joyful Marketing company. So it's all about, like, her. So she has a podcast and she has this group called Joyful Marketing. And it's such a good podcast, I have to say. Like, the podcast where she basically just talks about it's got a marketing theme, and she essentially talks about marketing for life coaches, but there's so much stuff that you can apply to creativity in her in all her content, basically. So this is a top tip from her, and it's basically like how to have original ideas. That's the name of the episode. And what she basically talks about is that original ideas don't come from sort of consuming other people's content. They come kind of like from within. So your own original ideas will come from within. And so she actually recommends, like, stopping consuming all this other content. So she's like, say, like, for example, it could be like from social media. It could be looking at other potters' work. Like on maybe, I don't know, like Instagram or something. Or it could be just, I don't know, maybe like sort of comparing yourself to other potters, looking at Pottery Books. It could be just content, absorbed in that way. And so she's obviously talking about it in terms of, like, sort of marketing and creating content from that point of view. But it really does work the same way in, like, a creative context, if you're actually creating, like, a physical thing. Because it's like, if you just have all other people's stuff in your brain, and you think, oh, it's got to be like this, or it's got to be like this, or they're better than me, or, again, that's going to block your creative flow. It's going to block your access to your original ideas, which come from within. So that's such a good, like, top tip. I listened to that episode the other day, and I was just like, what a fantastic episode. It was so good. So okay, so that's number 3. And okay, so the fourth tip, again, is somebody else's tip, and it's by a sort of spiritual writer called Rebecca Campbell. And Rebecca Campbell's written several books, but one of them is called Light is the New Black. And if I had to kind of, like, summarize the book, it would be basically, the book's all kind of about, like, your purpose in the world, and how shining your light in the world is essentially, your purpose, basically. Like, every human has, like, an innate, sort of joy, an innate set of things they love doing, and light that they can just, like, shine out. When they do what they love, they really uplift the whole world. So that's essentially what the book is about. And so she talks about it in terms of, like, say, for example, so she talks about it, like, in terms of being a writer. And you might be able to, like, you might sort of be able to empathize with this, because I certainly could when I was thinking about, like, pottery. And at the very beginning of your journey, when you're kind of just embarking on, like, learning something, you think to yourself, your brain is like, well, I'm not a potter, or I'm not a writer, But what she says in her book is that, like, the very fact that you want to do that thing, that makes you that thing. So for example, a potter, you kind of like, I don't know, like love playing around with clay, or you're interested in pottery, or you go to classes and you love them, or you have air dried clay at home that you like, you make things out of, and you love it, and you're really in the flow when you're doing it. You are a potter just by the fact that you love that thing, and you are a potter. So I thought that was such good advice for when those thoughts come into your mind where you're like, well, I'm not as good as them, or I haven't been doing it for like 25 years, or when you start to think I think those thoughts can really get in the way of like your original creative ideas in pottery. So just remember that when you're following something you love, like pottery, I love pottery. When you're following what you love, then you are that thing, and you're like just giving so much light to the world by doing what you love. And there's another really, really good thing actually in Light is the New Black, that book, that I really loved. When I read it, I was like, this is so cool, this concept. So I think sometimes like I can get creatively blocked by imagining like somebody on the receiving end of something I've made. So whether it's like a video or a podcast, or whether it's like a pot, if you think about a pot and you think like, how is someone going to receive this pot? What are they going to think? What are they going to think of my pot? They're going to think it's too thick. They're going to think it's too thin. They're going to think it's like too heavy. Are they going to think it's not well made enough compared to other people's pots? Are they going to think it's like the wrong color? Blah, blah, blah. All these things, all these thoughts that can kind of get in the way of your original creative ideas. And what Rebecca Campbell says in Light is the New Black is that the way somebody consumes the thing that you've made is none of your business. So I just thought this concept was so kind of freeing, basically, because so she talks about the fact that the fact that you're really that you really love doing something, that is kind of almost the only thing that matters. So like, when you're really in your flow, you're loving making pottery, you're like, you're loving like finding out about it, or just like playing with the clay, or, just seeing what you can do, and just like, just really enjoying that making process. That is the thing that's like lighting up the world. You're lit up, you're lighting the world up with your, original creative ideas that are coming, the creativity, that pure light that's coming from you because you're really enjoying it. And then however somebody else kind of like receives that thing you've made is none of your business. So you don't have to worry about that as you're doing it. You don't have to worry about like, what someone's going to think of it. You just concentrate on like just that absolute joy that you're getting from making something. So I just thought that was such a good top tip, and I'm really going to try and remember it. When I'm making things, and just be like, this is the part that matters, the kind of joy part, not like the end part. Where someone's you can't control what someone's going to think. They might think a bajillion different things, loads of different thoughts. They might think, because everybody's different and everybody likes different things. So it's the fact that it's like none of your business what someone likes, or how someone's going to consume your thing that you've made is very freeing. And you can just be free to make your thing and enjoy it, and like put your creative original ideas in pottery just in action. Okay, so that's number 4. And then my final top tip is, and this is just from me, and this is when I found out like almost like some of the best things that I've done. This is one of my like top tips, is just play, and to give yourself permission to play. So, you might think like, we were talking about in the beginning of this episode that you have to like do things properly, or, there's a right way of doing stuff. But what if you just played? What if you just gave yourself permission to play, and just to kind of, so I just like say, I love when I have some clay and I just feel like I can just really see like how it like feels, how to kind of, do certain things. Is it going to be able to, like, when I'm making something on the wheel, will it stand up if I, push it a certain way? Or, just give yourself, it doesn't have to be right. It just give yourself permission to like play. And those are when some of the best creative original ideas in pottery come to you. Basically, it's just when you just give yourself permission. You're not like, kind of holding on to like what something should be. It's like you're almost like opening your mind to what it could be, and you just don't know what it could be. So maybe your brain doesn't have the idea like that your brain doesn't know yet what it could be. But by just playing, it's like it frees you up just to like, really have those like original creative ideas. And you also learn loads about your skills from that play as well. Like I was talking about earlier, it just really helps you to be able to like kind of unlock your skills, and that's how grow your skills through play. Yeah. Oh, what an episode in terms of like original creative ideas. And like I said, I'll probably like listen back and I'll be like try and take some of this advice. Yeah, I love the advice from those two thought leaders in creativity, and sharing your light. And yeah, it's just lovely to have that like inspiration, isn't it? So yeah, well, like enjoy your pottery practice, and enjoy those original creative ideas coming to you, and like writing them down in your like creative idea notebook. And yeah, like wishing you so much happy potting until the next episode. And thank you so much for joining me on this episode. And yeah, I can't wait to see you next time. So yeah, happy potting until then. Goodbye. So if you enjoyed that and you're interested to learn more about eco-conscious pottery, head over to the Oxford Clay website, which is www.oxfordclay.co.uk. I can't wait to see you there.